Hi, Chris Averill, and I've been this final presentation for the Global Online Custom Design Bootcamp. I'm using ePortfolio because a colleague of mine, Alicia Scott Heiser, has used it so well in her classes, and I wanted to play around with this a little bit. I hope that this will be a little bit of a demonstration of some of the things that I've learned. I really felt that when I started this class, I had a lot of sort of seeds already there in place. Through 7 years of working with PowerSchool Learning, I'd learned a ton of things, value of multimedia presentations. I thought a lot about wayfinding in the student experience, and about how to present instructions with clarity. COVID-19, really sort of was a game changer though for me, because even though I stumbled along and into some core competencies, that this class has talked about, it really highlighted for me some weaknesses and some limitations in my own teaching, particularly in online. And so I left this spring very nervous and very worried, full of self-doubt. However, I took the GOA class in June, and I found that this was a really inspirational model for me, and it created a spark to help me want to sort of try all of this out on my own. So it was a great precursor for this boot camp. And one of the things that I was struck with and was resonated in that class was this idea that you don't ever use synchronous classes to introduce content. And that was a big, big, big lesson that I had found in my own struggles, this spring. So what were some of the fertilizers and things that fostering my development? Well, first of all, my first project, I realized really the importance of introduction videos. And they're pretty simple to use, and yet they're a really easy way to sort of get your own face out there and be an online present. I also really realized the value of KISS, which is keep it simple, smarty. And so that's causing me to have to really rethink um, my whole experience in creation of these projects. The next thing I did was try to think about how I can build community. And so I took an existing assignment that I had and sort of thought about how I can make that and leverage that into a online only experience. And I really, really liked how this ended up in terms of balance with layout and some interactions, links, and use of some icons and sort of simple instructions. And I feel like this ended up becoming a fairly pretty good use of sort of breakout rooms, or synchronous classes, which is something that I was nervous about. The next activity I did was look at show, don't tell, and really sort of rethink assessments. One of the historically in my science classes, I rely a lot on tests and quizzes. I mean, I do intersperse some projects a little bit more in the 7th grade than the 8th grade, but I do rely heavily on those. And so this idea of how do I take something that I normally do as a test, and then how do I change and flip that grid? And so again, I took an existing project, but then made it more robust. And I really was pleased with sort of how this came out. Um, you know, in the process of this, I was able to come up with some single point um, rubrics. Uh, I used a lot of rubrics before in my class, and I was happy to hear that single point rubrics were sort of the ones that were really valuable to use. Um, Finally, the last project that I did was playlists and not packets. And so again, a real challenge for me in my content is, when can I provide that student choice? When can I provide that agency? In my 8th grade class in particular, I really stick to the textbook a lot, and it's really driven by sort of that learning cycle. And so I was really pressed to how do I introduce content in this playlist kind of way. And so I landed on what I feel like was a pretty good mix of things where I had some videos and some experiments that we would do and some reading and then some bonus ideas. I used this particular thing called eLink, which I really liked, and I got that from the first GOA class that I took. So, what bloomed? I mean, I think I'm supposed to talk about that in my written reflection. So I can't wait to sort of share what I think I am. and this year we'll really see what's sunk.